I had the opportunity to speak to the Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist David Swanson about his new podcast called Just a Photographer. It is one of the most remarkable, groundbreaking podcasts that's all about the world of photojournalism and the different experiences that he's been through and that he's seen. It's truly a podcast that any photojournalist or those that are interested in the world of photojournalism must listen to. Hope you enjoy our conversation.
I turned 60 this year, and I just realized I had a lot of stories that I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell what it's actually like to do this. And throughout my career and throughout a lot of people's careers, we'd show up at the front door of an assignment and they would answer and say, "Are you the writer or are you just the photographer?" And I would sometimes respond, "When your house is on fire, what are you going to grab first? The photos and the letters. They're irreplaceable." There's a gentleman named Alan Katz, and he was a writer for the show Tales from the Crypt. And we met at a Thanksgiving party, started talking about podcasts. He has a few out already. And I said, there's so much effort that goes into photojournalism that nobody really understands, that when you look at a picture online for 2 seconds, there's a lot of work to get that picture done. I just want people to understand how much work goes into getting a picture, and the gravel you've stared at on the ground in front of a courthouse to get somebody coming out, uh, the smells, the fear, the anxiety, the pressure, that there's just a lot more work than appears to be. At some point after I've introduced myself, I want to host photographers. I have other ideas. I want to host photographers and their mentors. I want to host photographers that were injured during the job, during the protests. Well, we'll do 9/11. I was in Philadelphia and drove up that day and was at Ground Zero for a little over a week. I want to do the Palisades and Eaton fire for the anniversary of that. I want to have a few people on from J6 in January. Uh, yeah, so it'll be a good schedule. On one hand, I wish I could unsee some of the terrible things I've seen, the very worst things that human beings can do to each other. On the other, as hard as many of these things were to cover and see, I'm glad I was there to cover them. I'm one of those people who'd like to think I run toward danger instead of away from it, like the photographers I wanted to be. Iraq and Afghanistan, I was embedded with the U.S. military. They were taking care of me. So if I were to go out in the field, there was a certain sense of how I've really got to comport myself correctly, that I cannot participate, but I can walk with them, ride in their Humvee. The fact that I've remained friends with the Marines I was with in a pretty bad firefight speaks to the fact that they themselves wanted some recorded history of what they went through. The first night I was there, they brought in fatally wounded Marines on the back of a 7-ton, and I was told enthusiastically not to photograph them, but I did. Once I'd spent a few days, they understood who I was, and they understood why I was there. 24/7, whatever was going on, I was welcome to photograph. In Baghdad, all of the journalists stayed at one of two hotels. We could drive around, go out to dinner in Baghdad. It wasn't until February of 2004, something turned where we could once go out to dinner and go to the hookah bars, go for drives, and walk around Sadr City. Something changed. And the contractors that were hung on the bridge in Fallujah, I think that was the moment it turned. On March 31st in 2004, in Fallujah, a mob of extremists ambushed and killed 4 Americans, all of them civilian contractors for a company called Blackwater. This was Fallujah. The mob burned the bodies, then hung them from the King Faisal Bridge while a large crowd watched and cheered. I was on that bridge the next day. I can honestly say that was one of the most nerve-wracking times of my life. That was probably an hour-and-a-half drive from Baghdad to Ramadi through Fallujah, in traffic, slouching in my seat of a dirty Mercedes, on the right side with body armor in the door. But we made it. We got to the outpost, and my fixer handed me the body armor he was loaned. I said, "No, keep it for the drive back." And he said, "No, I'll be killed if I keep it. If they find body armor on me, I'll be killed."